What's up, guys? New and old with it's John with National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to go into this ridiculously historic Miami Heat Boston Celtics series. A little recap, and then going forward, what I think is going to happen. The reason I say new and old is I'm noticing every day casual fans, and just by that I mean fans that observe the game, that are open-minded and starting to notice something just isn't right. So that's always great. Obviously, if you're following along, you know what we're about. And, you know, if you're new, you might be able to derive through the context. I essentially think NBA is WWE, just a little more obvious. Now, again, the Heat here, it was essentially what I expected. And if you watched my last video, if you tailed me, then congratulations. Obviously, I have my hits and misses, but this series just seemed like between game 3 and 4, they were really just immediately setting it up. That's why to me it made the most sense that the Celtics would come back, make it 3-3, but then Miami would swerve for the win. Now, Jimmy Butler lost. I went over this, and this is one of the biggest reasons I had the Heat to win. Jimmy Butler lost heartbreaker after heartbreaker after heartbreaker. He lost, obviously, the Kawhi shot last year, to the day, I think it was. He loses to the Celtics in 7. Kind of gives us a little bit of foreshadowing, which he followed up on every game in this series, where win or lose, he's just like, yeah, we're going to win, don't worry. Michael Jordan-esque, you can say. And they're really trying to emulate him, in my opinion, in that regard. Year 13, obviously, and Spoelstra. If there's a coach that they're not going to have, especially the way they emphasize coaching, that they're not going to have blow a 3-0 lead to a rookie coach, it's going to be Popovich or Spoelstra. Like, those are the guys that are off limits. So, at least 4 times this game, they went into the coaching disaster, not disaster, but just the complete mismatch on coaching. And why the Heat are winning, because guys like Martin, and they went over the undrafted. That's another selling point. So there's so many reasons that I think it just made more sense for the Heat here to win Game 7. And again, I still like them to go win the whole thing. And I'll go into that, how many games I think it'll be. And I'm a little more open-minded, to be honest, in the finals than I was here. I did not see the Celtics returning, but Nuggets, Joker, I get it. So, that one's going to be harder. We're going to go into that. But there's so I don't really watch the talking heads outside of for comic relief. So, like, Stephen A. Smith, even though I think he's in on it, obviously great. He should be in WWE. Really funny watching him react, when he's wrong or right. But the guy that I have to give the most credit for, because nothing was going to get me off the Heat, but he gave me some reassurance earlier today. I watched a video, and obviously I already had my Heat pick out, and I'm just like, let me see what he has to say on the matter. And he wasn't really for the Heat. He was kind of, in the middle. But he went into one thing, and he uses this gimmick, whatever you want to call it, this shtick a lot, and I find it funny. He will go into the basketball gods, okay? And he used it last year when Dallas beat Phoenix. He said, for being cocky, basically, the basketball gods, smit down Booker and Paul. And, the guy's hilarious to listen to. But he went into that earlier today, how the basketball gods would not allow Spoelstra to lose in this fashion and allow this to happen to Jimmy Butler. And when he said that, I immediately, in my head, was like, that's better than any kind of analysis. Because, again, I feel like it's rigged and scripted. So when they use, goofy rationale like the basketball gods, I just find it, to hold more credence than the other theories. And his basketball gods rationale was 80% of the reason, for the narrative at least. To me, it made sense the Heat were going to win this game. So we could look at what we saw in the game. What we saw in the game was, again, it's really interesting. Maybe it's because we're 23, you're 23. They don't usually have guys play like Jordan. Kobe even made that distinction, like, I'm nothing like Jordan, I'm Kobe. And even though you could say he played like him, Jordan had a very specific style. Look like LeBron doesn't play like Jordan because he passes way more, and Jimmy passes, but the way he was playing this game, that smirk he had on his face the whole game, the jog where he's kind of selling what might have been a real injury, what I'll get into in a minute as well, some injuries, playing crazy on defense, communicating with the team, he just looked very Michael Jordan-esque, and I know a lot of people think, and I'm certainly not against the idea. I'm right in the middle because I'm not great with faces, but to me, like some people can tell baby pictures and like what the person looks like now. I can't do that. To me, it's more just the way he carries himself, and when I see certain pictures, even I think they look very much alike. So, again, even if the NBA, even if they're not related, the NBA probably knows by now enough people are buying into it and like, hey, let's just run this guy as the next MJ. So again, after every game, he's just calmly, yeah, we got him. We're going to get him. That's not us. And sure enough, in this game, and he wasn't even, Caleb Martin was the guy. I mean, obviously. But, like, Butler did what he needed to do. He led the team in scoring. And on defense, he did it all. And I went over this before. This is reminding me so much of the 19 Raptors with Kawhi. Where Kawhi went there. He was, finally on his own. And they really shouldn't. And it's ironic that he beat Jimmy Butler. So it just, a lot of things coming together. But it was a team not a lot of people expected to win. But there was some semblance of, I would say, like a relief from people. Like, oh, man, a big underdog won. That's cool. Like, and I really feel like they're doing that with Jimmy now, what they did with Kawhi. And Jimmy plays, in my opinion, a lot like Kawhi. Great two-way player. I think he plays more aggressive when he needs to. So Tatum, I actually believe he got hurt. So whatever was supposed to happen, whether it was supposed to be a closer game or whether, they were supposed to, maybe he was injured going into the game, I really don't know. But I can say, if you watch the Super Bowl and watch Patrick Mahomes with a supposedly severely sprained ankle, he's not selling it. He's running down the field and literally, like, he'll start limping like 3 seconds after the play when the camera went to him. And it was so obvious he was no-selling injury. Tatum, all game, everything he did, he was grimacing. It looked like a real injury. So, like I say, when they actually get injured, I always wish my best because you never know. Most of them fake the injuries. But they were showing Butler looking banged up. That one looked more like, again, to kind of establish him as Jordan. Like, look at him, he's playing all these minutes and he's beat up. Whereas Tatum looked like he was really genuinely injured. And again, real or fake, a top draw gets injured. Not much, value going forward. So, yeah, it's interesting now. We're going to have the Heat Nuggets. And again, doesn't make sense to me. For the same reason Game 7 wouldn't have made sense for me for the Celtics to win. I don't think you send Jimmy this far. And Spoelstra and Pat, who might be dying soon. Who knows? Maybe it's a little bit of symbolism there. Bill Russell and Pat. I don't know. But it's just interesting. I can't imagine that they would have them do that and then lose. It's just the only purpose to send the Heat to the finals is to give Jimmy his flowers. Just like the people that were saying the Celtics were going to win. Like, there's no reason for them to win, get this far. They were, without, and then they were going to win, and then there's no way they're going to lose again. And I can see that logic, but for me, with a team that's been in and out of there so many times, and again, this is a team on its way out. They're probably not going to have a good team for a very long time, whereas the Celtics are going to be in the thick of things for probably the next decade. So, yeah, to me, I don't know why so many people were on the Celtics, to be honest. I don't know if once the 3-3 happened, people just assumed they were going to make history because of Bill. I get that. For me, again, when it was 3-1, it was like confirmed to me that that's exactly what they were going to do. But that's why I thought Game 7, the swerve made so much sense. You're going to take so much money from the public. I can't imagine how many more people were on Boston this game than the Heat. You have the Heat fans that are very, passionate, but at the same time, I was reading comments from Heat fans, on the ESPN page, almost all of them are saying like, "Oh man, we're just happy with where we got," and I think that's exactly what the narrative was. They thought that they wanted everybody to know that the Heat, it doesn't matter. They outperformed all expectations. The Game 7 loss is nothing. And that's how the narrative was. That's how the media was acting. Like, they weren't even giving the Heat much of a chance. They went as far as talking about what's going to happen with Tatum and Brown if they don't beat the Nuggets. They were literally talking about this instead of Game 7 today. It was, I don't know, it was that nerdy guy, Wark something, and two other people. But it was Worcester. You guys have to know what I'm talking about. He's like a nerdy guy with gray hair. But it's just, they were literally talking about, Boston, if they don't beat the Nuggets, what do they do? And I really felt like it was like they were really saying, when they don't win tonight, but they couldn't say that, of course, are they going to ship Brown? And after that performance, I think they do. I think they ship him. That I think the narrative is going to be, and we'll go into all the narratives, Tatum can't come through, and Brown completely, he played good. He didn't play a bad game, but he didn't do what he needed to do either. So, yeah, not too much to go over, only because, I went over all the reasons I thought the Heat were going to win. And, this is not a snub, I promise. I don't use gematria. So, like, after the fact, I'm not going to come out and say, oh, yeah, these numbers all line up, that's why the Heat won. But, like, that's the one thing I don't do on my channel. And I think more people respect it than don't. I know some people, want to see afterwards all the numbers. But the truth is, I could find you numbers on both sides. I've done it. There's a lot of interesting numbers. I'll give you an example. Earlier in the game, they mentioned how if the Heat lost, it would be their first loss. They're 18-0 after being up 15. Well, that would make them 18-1, 1-8-1. So right off the bat, when Ernie Johnson said that, I was like, uh-oh. But you can see, it didn't happen. But if it did, I'm not going to put out a video seeing, 181, there we go. It just, so I mean, it's again, not a snub at all. It's just for my recap videos, I more like to go into these narratives, what I think it means going forward. And if we were over the target, like with Spoelstra, with Jimmy, of course, and these undrafted guys just leaving the planet, like Caleb Martin just is insane. Like, this is the stuff that I think wakes people up also to it being rigged. When guys like, Derek White are going insane. Now you got Caleb Martin, who's like 10 of 13, just couldn't miss a three. When that kind of stuff happens, I think that's the reason. That's why, again, I said new and old, because I'm sure we're going to have a lot of new people that are a little suspicious about Game 7 and maybe some of the others. But yeah, it just makes sense here that Jimmy doesn't go down as a complete, whatever you want to call it, failure. And I know that, nobody would see him that way, but you get to 4 big moments and you lose in all of them. I mean, it's really hard for people to call him Jimmy Legend or whatever they want to call him, So it's just something to me that they kind of wrote. It really was like wrestling, where, in wrestling, once a guy goes for a finisher, gets countered, the other guy hits his, you can almost tell by the pace, okay, now he's going to hit his, he's going to kick out of 2 now, and then when he hits his next finisher, it's over. That's how I felt this whole series was. It was so hand-fistedly the way they handled it. When it was 3-1 and they're just starting to plant the seeds. Even though Boston, again, they should have been talking about how Boston is such a better team. But they really weren't. They were just like, oh yeah, they might win one and then they're going to lose the next. And they were just really being passive about it. And then when it was 3-2, you have Perkins saying 0% chance Celtics come back. They tie it, and then he goes 100% chance that the Celtics win. So you just get all over the place narratives. But the one commonality was just the fact that, again, the Nuggets were already advanced. So we were not going to have this many days with no basketball. But it was these two teams have been in dogfights. Again, with Jordan, who did he have the rivalry with? I'm not saying that Jimmy's the next Jordan. I just saw he was named Larry Bird Eastern Conference. So maybe I'm right. But no, I'm not saying he's the next Jordan. What I'm saying is they are trying to pin him with that Jordan swag. Wrestling, euphemism or analogy. Stone Cold. There's never going to be another Stone Cold. So they try with Kevin Owens. That's why they gave him the stunner. There's never going to be another legend. But what they'll do is they'll try their best to pin somebody up, to be like them. So they can say, okay, we don't got The Rock now. We got LA Knight. If you guys don't know who he is, he's up and coming. But, or, whoever it may be. We don't have Austin, we got CM Punk. And they're just going to do that, and they're going to repeat it. Because we don't have Hogan, they went to Cena. So I just feel like since they are, sports entertainment, they're going to do the same thing. And let's just say he is the son of MJ. Even if he's not, we can call him the meme son of MJ, right? Is that fair? The meme son of MJ. And if that's the case, for him to win the Larry Bird Eastern Conference Finals MVP in the year Bill Russell died, again, this is another thing I kept telling people. They don't honor legends. They completely smear. And someone commented this with me, LBJ TV. He said this. He's like, when I was going over it, he's like, exactly. They don't honor legends. They smear them. And he went over a list of legends that got smeared. Kobe, Brady, LeBron's, he's doing okay, but things aren't going great for him. So they smear legends, especially after they die. So, it's a shame, but there's a reason they don't have Bill up there when they're talking about greats. The ones that they have up there, Michael Jordan, obviously, you got LeBron up there, so they're going to give them way more respect than others. But just because Bill died, I feel like them losing was more symbolic of the death, made more sense than them winning. Again, only because the NBA is sick, and they haven't. The rituals we've seen in the past have mostly been pretty sick ones, like LeBron passing Kobe and then him dying. We can go into that another time. But yeah, I don't want to make this too long. I just know that, again, I wanted to just elaborate on essentially the same reasons I'm going to like Miami going forward. Obviously, we don't have spreads yet. I'm guessing Game 1's going to be in Denver, and they could really mess with the lines, but considering they had Denver as a favorite no matter what, they have to have them as a bigger favorite than the Celtics, right? Yeah, Javier, we got it, man. Decisively, too, man. I think when the media told everyone there was going to be a Celtics shellacking, if the Celtics were going to win, they were going to win big. I think, they really threw people off and just had the Heat do the shellacking. But, yeah, as far as the Nuggets, it'll be interesting. But I just don't think they're going to go away from this Heat narrative where you have these, Jimmy carrying the team. Even when guys like Martin do good, it's because Jimmy's doing crazy on defense. Jimmy's the guy that's, the center of this team in a different way than I've ever seen. So, yeah, between all of that, another thing interesting is I remember Bird was 33, and this was a 3-3 series. So, obviously, doesn't mean too much, but I found that interesting. But, yeah, Butler to win the Larry Bird Eastern Conference, is very, very, in my opinion, interesting on this year of all years. So, yeah, you saw the Celtics fans. It's sad. I try explaining to people. I feel bad for the fans that think it's real, that pay money to go to these events to cheer on guys that don't care. At least with wrestling, you understand that they're not really fighting, so you're happy to pay the money to suspend your disbelief. Here you have people, and you have people betting, and I'm not saying we're always right. That's why I have my system, so even when we're not right, we still do well. But you have people putting a lot of money on who they believe is the better team, and that's the whole reason I made this channel, besides, going into like the Kobe stuff, which I think is very deep, is just to show that, Vegas stands to gain a lot of money. They're actively telling us about FanDuel and all these great bonuses as they're showing us the scripted games. So it would be crazy to think that they wouldn't do something to make some extra money. So now we have it. History made. I believe it's made because you have the biggest underdog now ever in the finals. I believe the lines are going to be between, I'm talking in the finals, like the lines themselves, and as far as a seeding wise, a play-in team, they were going into that. It's short-lived, it's only been around a few years, but a play-in team has never won the finals. So very interesting. Still liking the Heat a lot. I'm having a feeling a lot of people are going to like the Heat now. I don't think there's going to be enough public on it. Don't forget, you probably have people that have been just loading money into Denver as these two teams battle it out. And they might be assuming these guys are going to be gassed. You notice the announcers keep using the word gassed. Jimmy didn't look too gassed. They like to say that to make it seem like a team has no chance, and as you can see, they always do. So, yeah, nothing, like I said, too out of the norm. A bigger victory than I expected, and Jimmy didn't quite live up to my expectations. I had him having a top 5 playoff performance of all time, and I didn't know that was kind of crazy, but I think he's still going to. I do. I think Jimmy is going to have a ridiculous game. And he's going to just do some kind of like 40-point triple-double or 50-point game. I really can see it. So he still had a really good game, but obviously the role player shined, and I think that's going to be a trend in the finals. So I'll be going into the Denver Nuggets and Miami Heat. It should be really interesting. And again, thank you everybody, all the people that have been showing support. I always appreciate it. It's crazy that we were shut down, and if you just go back to the beginning of this channel, it took us a while to build it back up, but I just, grinded out videos every day and just tried to, focus on what I believe to be some not easy wins. These are certainly not easy wins, but some predictable narratives, or at least narratives that they might be giving away too much of the script, in my opinion. So as always, take care and happy earnings.